Hello, welcome to BYJU'S IAS. My name is Pratibha Verma and I have secured All India Rank 3 in Civil Services Examination 2019. In the series of the strategy lectures, the next topic we are going to talk about is how to prepare notes for Civil Services Examination. A number of students have approached me asking the same question: what is the most effective method of preparing notes so that they can get maximum marks in this examination? From my own experience of 3 attempts, I've learned that in my first 2 attempts, I did not focus much upon this aspect of our preparation. And because of that, I had to face 2 setbacks. In my first attempt, I could not clear the prelims, and my second attempt, I could not become IAS. After these experiences, I realized that only after preparing brief and very effective, precise notes, I will be able to revise all this huge content that we have to prepare for this examination in minimum amount of time. So when I started preparing for my third attempt, where I've secured All India Rank 3, one of the most beneficial things, in my opinion, that I did was putting most of my time in preparing good notes for the general studies part of mains examination. So I will be sharing my insights, my method, and my approach towards note making that has helped me a lot in this preparation. A number of toppers, even before me, have talked about the usefulness, about how beneficial this practice is. And in my opinion, if you also start making notes in the way that other toppers have done, in the way that I have done, and you copy the best part, or you take the best part of this strategy and include in your own preparation journey, then it would be beneficial for you too. So, with this, let's start with the session. Let's first talk about why note making is so important for this examination. So, note making is a practice where you write about all the important stuff that you are reading from your books, from your newspaper, from the current affairs magazine that you are referring to, and consolidating all the information in one place in your own handwriting. You are structuring all this content. Generally, what happens is when you are referring to newspaper, there is news about cyber security, there is news about maritime security, or something related to parliament, something related to judiciary, an important judgment is coming in, and all this content on a daily basis is getting accumulated, is getting huge. But you are preparing for civil services examination where a defined syllabus is given by the UPSC, and you have to structure all this content in that framework only. So note making is important because it organizes the content, it provides a structure to you, which helps you in creating a visual memory of all the content. When you're writing all the important information, be it the static part from your books, let's say Lakshmi Kant or art and culture or environment book, plus the current affairs part. When you are including all these things on a sheet of paper in a structured manner, then it creates a visual memory. So whenever UPSC is asking question, let's say about agriculture, and you have written a page of note, you would immediately recall that page and start listing out the information that was there. It actually reduces the amount of time you are taking in answer writing in the final examination. So this practice is highly useful to get the maximum benefit out of all the content that you have read in minimum amount of time. The second most important thing is that you are able to quickly revise all the content that is there in 500 pages of books, 1000 pages of newspaper in a very less amount of time. If you have prepared a note for 1 to 2 pages for each and every topic, you would be quickly able to revise all these content in just 15 minutes or half an hour, and that is a very efficient way of preparing for civil services examination. Third thing, that with note making you are able to consolidate all the matter in one place, and when you have all the information in one place, then your memory is also organized in that manner. This examination is all about how efficiently you can achieve this thing, how quickly you can recall all the subject matter about a particular topic in a very less amount of time. In that way, it becomes a game of memory. And how can you structure your memory? By consolidating all the information in one place. Next thing, it reduces your distraction. So what I mean by this is that in market you have huge material available. Then you are referring to some online sources. There are a number of PDFs on a particular topic. Now when you come across something like this, or a friend recommends you something like this, then you are automatically inclined to look into that. But if you have your own notes and you rely upon it, then you know that you don't need to refer to anything else. This reduces your time. This reduces the distraction that people are causing. If you have just read a particular topic from Lakshmikant or from a current affair magazine, and you come across something new in the market, then you won't be able to recall all these things that you have already studied it. You don't need to refer to any new material. So in that way, it is highly useful that it reduces your distraction, it aligns your preparation on a particular path, and if you continue in that direction only, definitely you will succeed. Next thing is that it improves your answer writing skills. And what I mean by this is that when I used to make my notes, I used to write in the exact format in which I was going to write my answers. So I used to write my answers in the same format in which I had made my notes. In a separate lecture, I have talked about how I used to approach answer writing in general studies. I have said there that I used to write my answers in point format. I use subheadings. I used to write introduction, subheadings, a number of points, next subheading, a number of point, way forward, and conclusion. In the similar format, I used to make my notes. So actually, in a way, I'm preparing for my answer writing when I'm preparing my notes. So this practice had created this skill in me that I don't need to actually prepare any separate framework or blueprint for answer writing. I'm listing down all the important information that is going to be used in my answer in my notes itself. And I will show you the example of this in just few minutes. The next most beneficial thing that you can derive out of note making is that you can answer all the questions of general studies if you have prepared your own notes on all the topics. So there will be a number of questions in the final examination. When you look at it, you will see that you have never studied it. For example, in last year, there was a question on Cyberdome. Why is it important? Now, it was a very small news in the newspaper, and most of the candidates had not read it. Only few people knew what Cyberdome exactly is. But at the same time, the question had asked what is its importance, how is it going to benefit in long run. I had a note on cyber security topic. Even if I don't know anything about Cyberdome, I know at least a page full of information about cybersecurity itself. So I just quickly wrote one generic line about Cyberdome, that it is a project that is aiming at creating a very secure environment, secure ecosystem for the cyber systems and processes in India. I wrote this one line. It is a very generic line. It is not wrong. I did not know that it is a project in Kerala that is aiming to reduce the cyber crimes against women and children. I just wrote one generic line that was neither wrong nor exactly correct. So it was somewhere in the gray area. Then I started with writing about why this project is important. Its importance lies exactly where importance of creating cybersecurity ecosystem lies. I just listed down all the things I had written in my notes about importance of cybersecurity. Then I moved on to what are the other government efforts in this direction. I had already prepared notes on this. I was aware about all these things. I quickly listed down what are other government efforts. Then I concluded that along with all these efforts and the Cyberdome that the government is creating, we are moving towards a secure cyber environment where privacy of our citizen, security and reduction of harassment or violence or abuse against all the stakeholders that is happening in cyber environment will be reduced to a minimum, and the violators will be punished. So this strategy of note making helped me in answering a question that I knew nothing about. Similarly, there are a number of examples where I was not aware what they are asking about. I have talked about a question about overground workers in Kashmir. I knew nothing about what overground workers are, what Jamaat Islami is, but I knew a lot of things about terrorism because I had my notes on it. And I listed down everything I had read in that particular topic in this answer. So that's how you can answer all the questions when you have prepared notes. You don't need to know specific events that are happening in the country. You can just relate the topic that it is about to the notes that you have prepared on your own. So this is a very efficient way of preparing for this examination. The next thing, when I was preparing my notes, then one thing that I kept in mind that maybe this year I will not get IAS. Then again I have to prepare for the next attempt. Then again I will have to go through all these books, all the current affairs magazine. If I have my notes ready now, then in next attempt actually my effort will be very minimum, and I can focus more on answer writing, I can focus more on the interview part, I can focus more on improving my essay part. So when I was doing this, I was actually preparing for my next attempt as well. I hope that no one of you have to go through this endless cycle of giving more attempts every year. I hope that you clear it quickly. However, there is a definite possibility that you might have to appear for the next attempt. Only 7 or 800 candidates are selected every year. The rest of them have to appear for the next attempt. By doing this, you will be actually reducing your effort. You will be less exhausted when you are preparing for your next attempt. The next thing, the next benefit out of note making is that you will be actually covering the whole syllabus. When you're preparing topic wise notes, then you know that you have left out these topics. And when you see that you have left about 5 to 10 topics of the syllabus, you will be automatically inclined to cover all these things. But when you don't have a structured and organized preparation, then there will be parts of syllabus that you will be missing out on. So if you want to reduce that, if you want to eliminate that mistake, then you should start with preparing your own brief notes. The next and the most important benefit out of the note making that I have derived is that I had a ready material for essay part. Now, a lot of candidates have asked me, how do you prepare for essay? And I have told them I did not prepare separately any content for the essay part of the examination. Now, essay paper is for 250 marks, and there are questions, there are essay topics from every area. It can be security, it can be about international relations, health, education, women, child, any topic. And when I was preparing my notes, I kept this thing in my mind that the things that I'm writing here will be used in my essay also. So that I was preparing a content not just for my general studies preparation, but at the same time for my essay preparation. So I had all the important data, statistics, major problem, what are the government scheme, what we should do in the future to tackle the existing problems that we are facing, exactly the same things that we are going to write in our essays. So because of this note making habit, I was able to reduce my time that I would have otherwise devoted on preparing all the materials separately for essay. For essay now, I just had to practice writing 2 essays in 3 hours. So that was it. Because of note making, I derived all these benefits, which I believe have contributed immensely towards me securing third rank at the All India level. Let's talk about how I prepared my notes. What was my approach towards note making? So I always prepared my final revision notes on A4 sheets. I will show you an example of how I used to do this in just few minutes. The second thing was I always had syllabus and previous year question for reference. What do I mean by this? That when you are preparing notes, you have this one book which is of 500 pages, you have lots of newspaper, you have current affairs magazine, and you're not aware that how important a particular topic is. How do you know that in exactly what depth you are required to go into? You get that idea by referring to the previous year questions that UPSC has already asked. You get that idea by looking at the syllabus of the civil services examination. It has well defined, well structured topics, and every year UPSC is asking questions from the same topics. You don't need to go outside those topics. So that's why you need to keep the syllabus and previous year question on the table with you when you are reading any material, when you are preparing notes. I prepared notes only for the mains examination. A lot of students have been asking, is it not required for prelims? It is completely up to you. For me, I felt that I don't need separate notes for prelims. However, if you feel that you need some notes for prelims material, then you have to prepare integrated notes for both the prelims and mains. You don't need to duplicate your efforts into note making. You don't need to have separate notes for these two parts. For me, I felt that mains answer writing was an area of weakness for me. That's why I went ahead with making notes, preparing my notes only for the mains part of the examination. The next thing was that I used to keep my notes highly precise, my final revision notes. It used to be very precise, very organized, very well structured, and I used to have some diagrams. If maps are required, I used to draw maps there in a very small size, and I used to have short forms. For example, if I have to write constitution, I never wrote constitution fully because it takes a lot of time. I just used to write C and a small circle. That meant constitution for me. So similarly, for larger words you can create these kind of things, and I always used short forms. If I'm writing a name of an organization or a body or a phrase that is highly used, for example artificial intelligence, I would always write AI. For example, cyber physical system, always cyber physical system. This is one of the things that you can do. For biotechnology, I would write BT. For nanotechnology, NT. So these kind of short forms you can use in your notes to reduce the time and reduce the length and size of your notes. I used to have just 2 pages of notes, maximum 2 pages of notes per topic. In some cases, it just used to get finished in half a page or 1 page. But if there are some topics which are quite huge, quite large, requires a number of aspects or dimensions to be included, then at the max, my notes used to be of 2 pages, nothing more than that. One last thing that I would like to say is that my notes actually were not very grammatically correct. It used to be rough notes. I'm not writing a book here that I need to write complete sentences. I need to write a very beautiful introduction or a very beautiful conclusion. I had that in my mind by reading the books. I do not need to reproduce the books that I have read already. It has to be very short. You don't need to write sentences. You can prepare your notes in point format, very rough. No need to be grammatically correct. Only the important keywords. They have to be very clear. Other than that, you don't need to create a book out of an existing book. You just have to prepare your own very precise notes. Now, what was my preferred mode for note making? So this is a very common doubt with students, whether online notes are better or the offline notes are better. I did both. First of all, I created digitized notes where I wrote all the important information that I came across when I'm preparing a particular topic. Why did I choose to prepare online notes first? Because it is very easy to edit it. It is very easy to add any current affairs material that you come across, any current event that is very important for that particular topic, and it is very easy to find your keywords. So when I prepared my first notes, it was online, it was highly detailed, and obviously it was very easy to edit. So I will show you how I have created my online notes in my next slide. I used to use Evernote platform for creating these notes. So it is a platform which is available for free. You can take that or create your notes on Word, MS Word, or any other platform that you prefer. So it is very easy to organize your content in these kind of platforms. I used to add all the important current events in that slide or in that particular topic. Actually, preparing online notes is very useful where the content is highly dynamic, where a lot of current material, a number of government schemes are coming, where every year some sort of issue or something new comes up at international level. So in those areas, creating online notes is really helpful. You can easily add anything new there. It is very easy to organize your online notes. When you're preparing your notes for the first time and you're doing it on the paper, you commit any mistake, then you don't need to actually mess up those papers. If you're preparing online notes, it is very easy to organize or structure it. Next thing, even at the online mode, I used to write everything in point format. So this was my first set of notes when I was doing it for the first time and I was not actually very comfortable with this extensive note making process. So creating online notes actually helped me a lot by easing me into the process. When I was preparing, I had cleared my prelims for the third attempt. Then I started writing the material that I had included in the online mode at A4 size papers. Now, what I did here, I wrote very brief sentences. I wrote exactly the points that were most important for that syllabus. So these offline notes were absolutely to the point, nothing extra material. So basically, what detailed notes I had prepared on Evernote, I filtered the content out of that. Why did I do that? Because when I was preparing the online notes, a lot of content I had memorized at that time only. I remembered most of the things. So I wrote down just the important things that I could not remember, and the things I knew will add a lot of value to the answer and will fetch me good marks. So, in that way, offline mode was a filtered version of the online content. And after prelims, whatever 3 to 4 months of current events happened, I added on the paper itself just 1 to 2 lines. Actually, nothing large or nothing huge happens in 2 to 3 months in most of the issues that we are studying. If you have prepared these things, then you just have to write 2 to 3 lines in that period. So just imagine how much your effort is reduced because of this practice. So this practice has helped me a lot. Again, I told you that my 1 to 2 pages notes were these offline notes on paper that I revised, that I used to revise after prelims just before the mains. So because of this practice, my preparation became very efficient, highly effective, and I derived maximum benefit out of the minimum time. One of the things that I want to highlight that how effective note making just in 1 to 2 pages will benefit you in long run in preparation of mains examination. If we look at the topics mentioned for general studies 2, that is paper 3 of the examination. It contains topics from governance, constitution, polity, social justice, and international relations. So these are the topics mentioned here. It is about Indian constitutions, it is about the federalism, it is about separation of power and judiciary. So in that way, a number of topics are listed here, and if you count these topics that are there in GS2, you would say there are 20 topics. So if you make a habit of writing maximum 2 pages per topic, then your notes for mains preparation of general studies 2 would be finished in just 40 pages. Let's say if you're not that efficient, maybe you have added more information, and for some topics it goes on to 3 to 4 pages. Even in that case, your notes will be finished in 50 to 60 pages for one GS paper. That is for 250 marks. So, reading 50 pages for 250 marks instead of referring to let's say 100 pages of current affairs magazine you are reading per month, then you're reading Lakshmikant. For IR, you are reading some 100 or 200 pages of book. So instead of reading those 500 pages, just imagine how efficient it is to revise all the material in from just 40 to 50 pages. So this is the most beautiful part of the note making process, that it helps you a lot when you are revising for the mains examination. I will show you an example of how I had created and organized my online notes that I prepared on this platform called Evernote. So here it is, the window of one particular topic. I'm showing you the topic of federalism here. Here you can say that I have created a folder called GS for mains. I have created separate notebooks for GS 1, 2, 3 and 4. I have opened here the notebook of GS2 that contains separate notes for all the topics that are important and that are listed in the syllabus. Some of the topics I did not prepare here. I directly wrote on the page because I did not have enough time. So here you can see I have listed down Supreme Court judgment, constitutional issues, federalism, executive, legislature, judiciary, important constitutional bodies, about civil services, civil society, local government, for social issues topic, for IR, multilateral, RPA, salient features, which is topic of election. So these are the topics that I've listed here. And then I have given numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the order of how these things are listed in the syllabus. So constitutional issues is the very first topic. I have given it number 2 because Supreme Court judgment I had to keep on top for ready reference. Then second topic is federalism. It is there. So in that way, you can organize your content in a highly effective manner. Now let's look at the notes. I have written the topic here, federalism. I have listed the micro topics that are written in the UPSC syllabus. It has been, these 3 lines have been directly lifted from the syllabus. What does it state? Function and responsibilities of the union and states. It is about federalism. Then second thing, what is it talking about? Issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure. So you are reading about functions, responsibility, issues, and challenges. So these 4 things have to be clearly there in your notes. The next thing is devolution of powers and finances up to local level. So 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, and then urban local bodies and rural local bodies. So it is about the federalism at basically the third tier of the governance. So federalism is about union, state, and local body. So this set of notes contains all the important things that I have read in Lakshmikant in my current affairs magazine, and I have listed down the important things here. So just look at the notes. I have written a definition of federalism. Then I have highlighted, because this part is very important for answer writing, that it implies equal partnership between governments attained as a result of negotiations. This is a very good definition. So I've highlighted this. Now I have talked about what are the features of federalism, because sometimes they generally directly ask this question in UPSC. So I've just written 2 words. It's dual government, separate domain, written constitution. These things have been lifted from Lakshmikant, which is your reference material for static portion. Then not a true federation. On the basis of these, I have written about some very prominent people who have said some things about constitution, and then what Ambedkar ji had said about federalism. So when you are writing this in notes, it is exactly your value addition part. A number of people have asked me, how should we make value addition to the answer? This is how we do it. I have written these things from the Lakshmikant itself, not from any news source. I have not researched for it. It is there itself. If they're asking a question about federalism, I will write some line from this thing only. So here is a very detailed presentation about how I have made notes on the topic of judiciary. So I listed the topic judiciary here. Then what is the micro topic, or what is the exact statement in the syllabus? That is about Separation of power. Why I have included this in judiciary? Because actually separation of power between judiciary and legislature is a major issue. So that's why I have included it here. Between various organs, then dispute redressal mechanism. Dispute redressal mechanism is a subpart of judiciary. It is actually at a very local level, but I have included this in judiciary because judiciary is itself part of the conflict resolution, and similarly these extra mechanisms are also some way connected to judiciary. And then institution, structure, organization, and functioning of judiciary. So in this particular note, I have combined these topics. Now the next part that you see, these are previous year questions related to judiciary. So I have included these questions in my notes itself. You can see here one question: what is quasi-judicial body? Explain with the help of concrete examples. This was a question asked in 2016 or 17. I have written this question that critically examine the Supreme Court's judgment on NJAC. NJAC was a topic very closely related to the issue of judiciary itself. So appointment of judges. So I can see that these topics are relevant from these previous year questions itself. Now, in this column, on the basis of all the studying that I did, all the research I did, I have written just few lines in brief that this is how I'm going to answer it. So this is the kind of practice that is required when you're preparing your notes. Now from here, actually my notes start. So in the first column, I had talked about issues with judiciary. You can see I have written appointment here. Appointment in judiciary is a very big issue. So the relevant article here, the relevant cases, second judge's case, 99th constitutional amendment, which was about NJAC. This very question that we have seen here. I have prepared a notes of 3 to 4 lines on this topic. Then in a separate column, I have talked about what are the cases. You can see just one line. That's it. First case, one line. Second case, one line. Third case, one line. This is what I have done here. Then primacy of judiciary. Why is it important? Again, government is a major litigant, independence, separation of power, the keywords. These are the keywords that I have written in my notes. And just look at the fact, these are my detailed notes. Even in detailed notes, I have been highly precise in writing my points. Then we have talked about independence of judiciary. Then I had to highlight why is it important to maintain independence and what are the means of securing the independence. So exactly related to this above topic, I have listed down these things. Now, obviously, you all know, if you have been studying for quite some time, that there is a collision system. I wrote about what are the issues, 5 to 6 points. Issues in High Court appointment, there are some very specific issues, 2 to 3 that I have listed here. Then memorandum of procedure was one of the solutions proposed for this thing. I listed down important points of that here. Then way forward. So you can see that I have this full note here relating to every aspect of the appointment process that have been there in the news or in the static portion. So these are my detailed notes. Now, when I summarized it, it took just half a page on a A4 size. Because of this practice of writing everything down, I had already remembered or memorized most of the things. I just needed to list down the important keywords. In my final notes, I just wrote MOP 2016, 5 points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Now let's look at the next issue that I have mentioned here, which is about the investigation and prosecution in a case when a judge is accused of something. So if you remember that there was a allegation against the Chief Justice of India with respect to sexual harassment. So it was actually very prominent news, and you would have seen that for a month or two, it was continuously popping up in the newspaper. So it was an important current event, and I added a row for that here. That's it. For that current event, I just clicked on add row and listed down the important 3-4 points that I had gathered from the newspaper. It was not from any static book or from a current affairs magazine. It was directly taken from the newspaper itself. So you can see I just have written one line: violation of existing law, which is sexual harassment at workplace. I have written in short form SHW. and ICC with an eminent activist or expert on the committee. ICC is Internal Complaints Committee under this particular law. So, in using these short forms, I have prepared my notes. Now, the removal of judges is another issue that is there with the judiciary. Removal of judges is a very complicated and very lengthy process. It requires a lot of discussion at the level of parliament. So, it is a highly complicated process, and that's why it is considered an issue because no judge ever has been removed from their position. So, not just removal, but any kind of disciplinary proceeding is an issue. So, this part actually deals with that problem only. So, I have written about what are the issues with impeachment, what are the problems, what is the way forward in the point format. And this is exactly how I used to write my answer. So, this created a visual picture in my memory. Now, I have actually noted down an important case of Justice Kernan case from the newspaper. There was an article where it talked about the issues associated with this that was highlighted, and I just added a row here to add that particular part. Corruption in judiciary. It is actually related to the accountability. How to hold judiciary accountable to the other organs of our polity or towards the people. So that issue has been dealt with here, and then there are suggestions to improve judicial accountability. Now, here, when we are talking about suggestions, I used to include what ARC has said, what Supreme Court or High Court has said in different judgments, and there was this particular bill related to judicial standards and accountability bill. I have listed three important provisions here. Second, ARC here, I have highlighted this thing also. So, this is a good way to prepare notes that you are consolidating information from different sources at one place. Now, it becomes very easy to remember just these 10 to 12 lines on one particular topic that could be asked in the general studies paper. So this is the issue of transparency. You must be seeing that Office of Chief Justice of India has been included, recently brought under RTI. So it has been a topic of discussion for quite some time. So judiciary under RTI, I have talked about why is it important for including under RTI, against inclusion under RTI. So there are arguments for both. Now, way forward. So, this is a way that I have written this whole topic in just 10 to 12 lines. Judicial backlog. It is a major issue that there is huge pendency of cases. If you look at how I have prepared, I have given estimate, some data. This new project, National Judicial Data Grid, is there. And then I have written about what is exact number of cases that are pending at the each stage. So I started with data. So if there is a question on judicial backlog, I will start my introduction with this data. This is my introduction. There's reason for pendency. I have included multiple reasons from a lot of sources. In that way, it is a detailed note. But when I would be making my short notes on A4 size sheets, I would actually reduce it to the minimum, just 3 to 4 points in this format. So I've highlighted actually the important data here, 18 judges per million, these things. Then impact of a weak judiciary or the judicial backlog. What is the implication of reasons for this? The implications of this. I have actually consolidated this from Lakshmikant newspaper or Current Affairs magazine. You can see that I've written a quotation: justice delayed equal to justice denied. It is a short way of writing this quotation. Obviously, in the final paper, I would detail it out. Then what are the steps that judiciary has taken? What is the suggestion of economic survey? In 2018-19 survey, they had given a number of suggestions with respect to tackling this problem and improving ease of doing business. So I have included this current affairs thing also here. Now, what are the steps that judiciary has taken? Written here, then way forward for reducing this. So that way the topic is completed till here. Now, in some magazines, I had looked at the issue of fast track courts. I have included here. Then this is a static portion. What is the jurisdiction of SC? Original appellate important articles, because in the GS2 answer, it is important that you mention these particular article. It adds a lot of weight and value to the answer that you're writing. So you can see that I've talked about revisionary jurisdiction, writ, In very short way, I have listed all the things here. Then what are the powers of judiciary? Obviously, you have seen that in the syllabus itself is written what are the functions, roles, and powers of judiciary. So I have just detailed out these things in this manner. What is the position of Supreme Court in our polity, issue of diversity in Supreme Court, appointment of judges and retirement. Law Commission of India, which is I have written as LCI, had recommended 3 years of cooling off. I had come across this thing in a current affairs magazine, so I just wrote one line for the reference. Then judicial education to the poor section of society. This actually includes the topic of PIL and access to justice, these things here. Then in Niti Aayog, there was a very beautiful chapter on justice delivery system, how it can be reformed. It is not related to judiciary only, it is talking about justice delivery system. So I created this table and included all the important provisions here. So it became a ready source of referring to what Niti Aayog had recommended. So I would add this in conclusion or some point that they have said this thing, and important keywords would be mentioned there. Now, separation of a power is topic closely related to judiciary and legislature. So I started with just adding its meaning. What are the laws and policy for that? What is the meaning of separation of power, which is res politica? I have started with that in the next section of this note. It is completely separate. However, it is closely related to the topic of judiciary. So that way my notes have been completed. So this was how I prepared my detailed notes and consolidated all the materials from the static and current affairs source. Now I will tell you how I minimized all this information into 2 pages. So I prepared a second set of notes for final revision. I already told you my final notes were maximum of 2 pages. So how do you minimize all this information into half a page, 1 page, and 2 pages? So I started doing this after prelims. I referred only to my first set of notes. I added whatever current material had come between last 2 to 3 months when I was just focusing on prelims and I did not prepare any notes. So I referred to the first notes. I took one reading and tried to estimate whatever part I already remember. And then at the second reading, I started noting it down on a A4 size sheet. It was very brief. I only mentioned the keywords, important keywords here. These were my final revision notes before the mains. It was a very integrated notes. They were part of static, current affairs. I used books read in prelims. I mentioned whatever ARC or Niti Aayog important points were there in my notes itself. I added 2 to 3 lines that was very new and was part of Current Affairs magazine. Obviously, it included all the important judgment and important data that I knew I'm going to use in my answers. That I made these notes in the second reading, and then because of this practice, I stopped referring to any other material. It does not matter who is suggesting this material to you. Even if a topper is saying that it is important, if you have prepared your notes, then stick to it. Do not be distracted. Trust on the material that you have prepared with your hard work. And then I told you, add whatever new current affairs is there in this 2 page note. Just write a brief line at the end that this is a current event. That's it. Now, this is a sample of how I prepared my second notes. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of my actual notes right now, so I'm just giving you a framework of how I did that. So again, let's take the topic of judiciary. So here I used to divide the page because I'm going to write in point format. It will take very less space if I'm going to just write one word here or 2 words here. So this is how I'm going to do. At one part, I would write the static portion. So relevant provisions of the Constitution with respect to judiciary. For example, what are its power? What are important articles? This article 122, 211, this, and whatever the important part is, I would write in 2 to 5 points here. Then what are the important cases related to judiciary? First, judge's case, second, third, NJAC case, which is most often known as fourth judge's case. So this will be listed down here. Then issues of judiciary, issues of accountability. I would make this flow chart and I would write first issue, second, third. What is the solution? 1, 2, 3, 4 solution. Similarly, issue of appointment, just 2 to 3 points, most important ones, and only keywords. So actually, I would finish my notes that I had wrote in 15-20 lines in just half a page. That's how I prepared my offline. So this obviously requires a lot of effort, hard work, and a lot of practice to achieve this kind of efficiency, but it actually helps you in answer writing. This is exactly how I wrote my final answers in point format with heading 1, heading 2. And because I was continuously doing this with all the topics of general studies, I did a lot of practice in my notes making itself. So answer writing practice was continuously going on every day, every hour when I was doing this. And this has helped me immensely. I think this was the most beneficial practice that I did when I was preparing for this examination. So I hope that it has provided you some good insights, some good viewpoints, and you can adopt some good practices that I have done and incorporate into your preparation. And I hope that it will be immensely beneficial to you and you would be able to prepare each and every topic of the syllabus in detail with a lot of efficiency, with a lot of effectiveness, and it will definitely lead you to success. Thank you so much.